Welcome everybody from wherever you're dialing in. We've got a lot of people joining today. No Zoom fatigue, I see. So we've got a lot of people joining, a few people just coming in. What we'll do, we'll give it another minute, let those last couple of people come in, and we'll start about a minute past. But as you can see, we're all live, the speakers are ready, everyone's looking fresh. Like I said, we'll start in about 30 seconds from now. It's a minute past. Lovely to, as I mentioned, lovely to see everyone on the meeting today. We've got a bit of a jam-packed session for you today, and we've lined up speakers literally from around the globe this morning. So we've brought on experts from their field, and key is we've brought on experts that have helped organisations just like yours to govern, manage, and consume all enterprise data. So that's absolutely key. And in this area, in this kind of age, you know, some of us have been in lockdown in this area of Zoom fatigue. We promised to make it a little bit exciting. We really want to bring those topics to life. So we're going to examine some innovators. We're going to look at those. As I mentioned, it's always nice to look at use cases, to look at real life organisations. But we're going to start by looking at some of those building blocks. I think one of the things that Philip's going to be doing is talking about a DNA and a culture. Can we go on to the next slide, please? So the agenda today, we want to look at the need to create a data culture across your organisation. So shifted mindset, moving to looking at the importance of data and understanding that data culture. That's something that has to really start to get us on that journey. I talked about real life examples. We've got Philip from Paris, we've got Ram from Chennai, and we'll be talking about that across the globe, but also making sure that we bring that to life regionally. And then here's the thing, you know, consuming that data, having that data culture, that's one thing. But if you can't get started on that fast path to success, well, how can you do it? If it's not attainable, no one's going to do it. So we're going to look at how we can help you get started. And finally, I think the thing that we've seen some feedback on is we're going to lose the slides. I'm going to go to an interview, a fireside format, as if we were, you know, sitting locally with you. We'll lose the slides. We'll go to video, and I'll ask some questions from the speakers. And I think here's the key. Let's give them a hard time. All those hard questions you want, let's present those out. So you'll see a chat box at the bottom. If you just look to the bottom of this window, you'll see a chat function. There's a Q&A function. However those questions come across, feel free, get those over to us and we'll put those to the audience live. So let's introduce you. If we could have a look at the next slide, please. My name's Alan Heron. I'll tell you how we're going to introduce the speakers today. We're going to do it on ascending tourist hotspots around the globe. How about that, Ram? Ram, you're smiling with that one. Do you like that one? And Philippe, I think
sure, Alan.
Win. But look, I'm calling today. I'm based in a place called Cambridge. A little bit history about Cambridge. Cambridge is one of the oldest universities in the United Kingdom. So I'm based about 70 miles north of London. We started, the university here started about 1209 was the university founded, and it was actually if you've heard of Oxford, it was an argument between some academics, and these guys moved away and started Cambridge, and I live about 5 or 6 miles from there. Lovely place if you want to visit it. We're going to move to Chennai and to where Ram's calls home. Lonely Planet calls it one of the top 10 places you must visit. Really buzzing city. I've not had the chance to go down. I visited up in the north, but Ram's from Chennai. And I think the key thing about that is it's also one of the a smart city. We're moving across to a smart city, so we're seeing technology really come to play across Chennai. And then I mentioned we'd probably go ascending order, and I think even pipping London, Philip is coming live and director us from Paris. Philippe is pre-sales director, runs the team. Philippe actually worked with the organisation, the software business that was Orchestra Networks. TIBCO acquired Orchestra, and that's become our unified product set. And Philip leads that team, again on the cold front and the cold face, working with organisations. So I think really at that point, what we're going to do, if we can go to the next slide, please. We're going to hand it over to Philippe. We're going to talk about a data culture. We're going to talk about DNA across your organisation. At that point, Philippe, please, the field is yours. And lastly, to the audience, please keep those questions coming in. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Alan. So to speak about the data culture, we'll speak about the master data management, which will be the focus today, and why this data are important inside your company. So when we speak about master data, usually people think about managing customer or product, but it's broader than that. Master data are basically the data that are shared and stable in your organization. So they are shared because they are present in multiple applications and systems in your company. They are stable because they are not changing every day or at a high frequency. So new master data can be created every day, but one master data is not changing every day. So for example, a product is a master data, but the stock of a product is not master data. So for example, here you can see typical master data that can be basically split into three big categories. So product, material, services are called things. Customers, employees are called parties. And then you have reference data, which are basically, I would say, a subfamily of master data management. So these data are list of values, nomenclatures, and are usually pretty stable. For example, currencies, list of country codes, and things like that. So these data are really what we call here the DNA of your business, because you will see the impact and where they are managed inside your organization. And if you don't take care of your master data, then you will have problems. So on this slide, we just wanted to illustrate the impact of this data. As you can see here, they are at the heart of your infrastructure. These data are used everywhere inside your company. So if you neglect, for example, the way that you manage this data, you will have impacts everywhere. So if we start on the left side, on the operational side, you have systems that are using this data every day. So for example, your ERP, your HR system, your supply chain. So if you neglect, again, the way that you manage this data, you will have a huge impact here. Then we can go to the right side in terms of analytics. You know that, for example, you are probably using BI tools, analytical tools. You analyze your data, you build some reports, you take some decisions based on these reports. And these reports are using master data. They are using your information around your customers, around your products. So if this information are not well managed, are not true, doesn't have big data quality level, then every decision that you will take will probably be wrong. So all the decisions that you will make will probably lead to somewhere that you don't want to go, because the foundation of your analysis were not true. Then finally, in terms of compliance, so for example, in Europe, we have the GDPR, a lot of regulations around the way that you manage the data of your customers. But if you don't centralize the information on your customers, if you don't know in which application your customer information are stored, then you simply won't be able to be compliant with all these regulations. So again, it was just a quick slide to show you the impact of this data. Now let's see how you can manage this data. What are the features, the functions that you need to be able to do that? So here, this is for us, in our vision, the mandatory features for you to be successful in your master data journey. So the first one is what we call here adaptability. It's you have seen that there's a lot of different kind of master data. And then every company has its own context, its own, I would say, environment. So you need to have a solution that can be adapted to any kind of context to manage any kind of data. Then, of course, when we speak about master data, we want to centralize important information. So we need to ensure that this data will have I would say, the highest data quality level as possible. So we need to ensure that the data that are here are good. So to do that, you need to be able to automate the rule, the data quality check. You also need to be able to involve users because they have the knowledge on their data. Then, of course, you need to manage the life cycle. You need to manage the past, the present, and the future of this master data. Then when we speak about master data, you will have a lot of relations between your data. For example, your customers will use your products. Your customers can be linked also to your employees. So you will have a lot of relations everywhere. So you need to be able to understand these links, understand this relation, visualize this relation. Then, as I was saying, we need users on board. We need to have business users working on the master data and on the data themselves. So if you want to have a successful data culture, you need to onboard your users. So to do that, the solutions needs to be easy to use. Otherwise, I mean, they will never use it. Finally, two last points, data governance. As these data that we're speaking about are key in your organization, of course, you need to be able to define a very precise way how this data should be managed. We can have control. We can see that. Or can you go back on the previous one? Oh, let me do it. You really need to define your data governance processes on top of that. And finally, integration and availability is that you are going to centralize your information. So you need to be able to easily send data to this solution and of course to extract it. So these are, I would say, the key features. Now let's speak about a tool that we are going to provide you for you to be successful on this implementation. So the tools we're going to present is called TIBCO EBX. So in terms of adaptability, the best way to do that is to be able to really define what you want this tool to complete. So for that, you need to have a model-driven approach. The idea is that you define exactly the structure of your information, and based on this structure, the tool will generate all the features that you can see on the right part of my screen. So then in terms of data quality, you'll be able to address different things. The first one is what is called validation. It's the ability to check that the data are correct. For example, everything that you create, everything that you import, the data quality engine will check that the data are respecting all the rules that you have defined. Then you have a data duplication engine. So ability to identify data that are potentially the same from multiple systems or inside the system. Then in terms of life cycle, again, you'll be able to manage the past, the present, and the future, have access to the audit trail. So to be able for you to understand everything that is going on your data. Hierarchy management based on relations, the tool will give you a lot of ways to think how the data are related. You can create as many hierarchies as you want. Users can directly manage the data using hierarchies. Its full hierarchy management capabilities directly included. In terms of user onboarding, you have screens again. Users can directly search for data, compare, change their views. They really can manage the data in an easy way. Then in terms of governance, you'll be able to define workflows and define security roles in a very precise way. Again, everything is fully configurable to really adapt the solution to your own requirements. And then in terms of integration, a lot of different things are possible. Web services for real-time integration, batch file, SQL applications, so to directly access the data in SQL. And you also have access to a developer API to go even further than that. So now what we do is that now we're going to speak about real life, about what is going on, what the companies that are doing with these tools, how they're doing it, and first, what are the companies that have successfully implemented this kind of approach. So here you have an extract of the customers that we have, and this is just customers using the data management platform that I just presented. So I'm not going to describe all of them, it's just for you to have an idea, understand that of course, a lot of different activity sectors require this kind of solutions, this kind of technologies. A lot of them are coming from the financial services, insurance markets, because this was, I would say, the first activity sector that really needs to put in place this kind of solution. They had a lot of regulations. They need to be able to provide a lot of information about how the data were managed. So this is why you will recognize some big names on this screen. But again, we will be very happy to give you further details afterwards on any of these references. But it's just for you to understand that even if you take a look at two customers from the same activity sectors, they can have a completely different usage of this kind of tool. Some of them are using this tool to manage their customers, some of them to manage their products, some of them to manage multiple domains. If you have, for example, here, Technical FMC managing 28 different master data domains. So again, we will be very happy to give you more information. Don't hesitate. And customers is, of course, a very important information, but you also have analysts. And here, this is the Gartner Magic Quadrant, just to show you that we are a leader on this market for the Gartner. We can also provide you information from other analysts where we are also very well identified. But what is important also to you to understand is that we are positioned here with only one tool. Whereas if you take a look at usually at the competition, they have multiple products to manage that different data, one to manage the product information, one to manage the customer information. So our main, I would say, difference and our philosophy is, again, to provide you all the features inside one platform. But again, we'll be very happy to give you more details if you need afterwards.
Oh, I was on mute. I think that's quite interesting and good point there, Philippe, because I mean, we're talking about that DNA, we're talking about that culture, but actually what we're doing is we're going away to external analysts to have a look at that perspective, because there's one thing, us talking about that and saying we're good, but I think that's very good points about having all of those capabilities. Ramalingam, I know when we were talking, we were putting this together for the audience today, a couple of things that you wanted to bring to life here. Do you want to pick up here, Ram?
Sure. Thanks, Alan. Hello, everyone. Okay. So Philip has given an introduction on what MDM is all about and how TIBCO EBX can solve the MDM problem. Okay. But let me add what BCT can do using the TIBCO MDM tool, how BCT has done the MDM implementation for other customers. Okay. So some of the core strengths of BCT in the MDM and data governance implementation is we have done multiple data platform implementation. Let's say the enterprise data strategy. Okay, so we went to customers. Okay, we understood what they need. We helped them define the data governance strategy. Okay, we told them, okay, what should be part of the data governance, what should not be part of the data governance. Okay, and also define the roadmap, how long it would take for them to implement the data governance program. Okay, and how they can sequence the flow so that they can achieve the maximum ROI in the shorter time. Okay, and apart from the data governance, we have also done multiple MDM implementation programs, core data quality implementation programs, which includes the data migration and modernization. Okay, talking about the MDM implementation, some of the key master domains that BCT has successfully implemented for customers across the globes are customer and prospect masters, product and services master, the employee master, location, and not just the master data, but also the various reference master data, okay, and the metadata. The metadata also includes the business glossaries, business rules, and the data lineage, all those stuffs, okay. And BCT has core expertise in the data access security for the regional specific or the industry specific. Okay, we understand the data privacy and the protection acts as per the local governing rules. Okay, and we have strong implementation experience in data access privacy implementation. Okay, another core experience from the BCT implementation is the data quality management. Okay, so this is one of the key section which determines the success of the MDM implementation. Okay, how good your quality is. Most customers, when they start with the data, they come back and say that, hey, we know our data, it's very good, and this is the issues that we know, there is nothing more. Okay, but then we go back and tell, are you sure? Can we do an assessment? can we just do a profiling, and then we will get back to you. So when we do the profiling, we identified more issues that the customer never thought that it existed in their organization. Okay, so that is why understanding the current data quality is more important, which many people may not have understood. Only when you do the data quality management program, start the profiling, do the assessment, and then you may unearth a lot of potential problems that could lead to compliance or legal issues in the future, or in simple terms, it's going to add too much of data redundancy, duplicacy, which would impact your business growth. Okay, and these are the things that BCT strengths are. Let me just go ahead with a couple of examples, okay, where BCT has successfully implemented an MDM program. Okay, so this is one of the customer, which is a fast growing mid-tier bank in US. Okay, so when BCT stepped in, okay, their current system was, they didn't have a master data. Okay, their data spread across multiple systems. They had different types of master data like customers, employee, the operating locations, and they also needed the reference data hierarchy. They need to manage the hierarchy. Okay, and the problem that they had is like the customers of the bank organization, okay, that was duplicated within the system. Like for example, within the core banking system itself, they had duplicates of the customers. And when you go from the core banking system to the credit card or to the insurance, that there is a duplicate across the system. So there is a duplicate within the source system and also duplicates across the source systems. Okay, for a growth of an organization, you need to know your customer better. Okay, at a given point, you need to know, hey, what are the different roles this customer plays with me? Only then I'll be able to do better upsell, cross-sell, and do better marketing to the particular customer. Okay, so deduplication of customer is core. And it's not just deduplication. Some of the systems are little legacy and they didn't have a proper validations in place. So the customer data is not of so good quality. It's not just the customer data, even the location data is not in a good state. Okay, and apart from this data quality issue, they also had problem where things are managed manually. Some of the key marketing information, surprisingly, they are managing it in Excel sheet. And the reason they told us, current system, the data stewards cannot modify it as per their need. So they felt Excel is better than the current application. And they were maintaining the key marketing information in that Excel sheet. And the IT department is feeding that Excel sheet back to that application. This is how it was working so far. Okay. And they also had some manual interfaces between application. When they changed something in the application one, they had to do it manually on the other application. Okay, that's when BCT went in and then we told, hey, look at it. You need a proper data governance, okay, and also MDM implementation. And this is how we could help it, okay. And we didn't start with big bang. We said like, okay, TIBCO EBX is the best tool, okay. And along with TIBCO MDM, the EBX, we also used Clarity, TIBCO integration. It has a lot of suite of products, okay. And we choose TIBCO and then we started with an assessment phase. We did the data profiling. We started with the core banking customers. We told them, this is the percentage of the duplicates. This is the percentage of the data quality issues that the current data has. Okay. And then they understood that these are the problems. And then they asked us to do the implementation. We provided them the roadmap, how they want to implement it in like, for example, we said that, okay, let's go ahead and do the master data for the customer only for the core banking. Once that is done, then let's do the onboarding of the second source, let's say credit card, and then insurance. And in simultaneous track, let's do the employee. So forth, we define the roadmap for the MDM program. We also define the data governance on how the data quality rules should be defined. For example, so far the marketing data has been managed in Excel sheet, right? That has been done away with. And then the TIBCO MDM has become a single stop solution where data from source systems will come and the data steward will start using the MDM to manage the data. Okay, with this, the value that we delivered to the bank organization is the customer duplicates has been eliminated by almost 20%. Okay, and the invalid data has been eliminated by almost 30%. So the data governance team took back the statistics. They went back to the source system. They had a separate program. Okay, hey, these are the quality issues that the MDM has identified. Now, what can we do? Something can be as simple, go ahead and do a one-time update. But something is not as simple as that, where they needed a change in the source system to adopt to it. And that would take its own time. And that is where the data governance team has to come in play, where BCT will guide them, understand together with the business team, prioritize the data quality issues, and help them to solve the root of the data quality programs. Okay. And another thing is like by eliminating the duplicates, by eliminating the invalid data, we were able to give them a single view of different roles the customer plays with the bank. With that, the bank started seeing a very good improvement in the marketing campaign for almost 20% improvement. Okay, where they were able to upsell or cross-sell other products to the same customer. Okay. And another key benefit is like giving back the data ownership to the business team. They are no longer dependent on the IT team or managing the data in an Excel sheet. They were able to do it directly on the MDM. Okay, and no manual intervention needed. The data, once fed it in TIBCO MDM, has been sent back to the downstream applications in real time. Okay, and not just the current changes. Now we have set up the TIBCO MDM as a solution. Now the bank can in future onboard any domains on their own without much changes to the architecture. Okay, so that's how the solution has been positioned. So this is all about the bank organization that we did for the US. Let me take another industry example. Okay, so this is one of the large telecom customer in Oman. Okay, there they had like parties. Okay, it could be like the individual customers or the corporate customers. The business team had to manage the customer hierarchy, account hierarchy. They wanted to manage the reference data. Okay, and the key business challenge that currently faces, once again, the common problems like a duplicate data quality issue. But apart from that, it is not the MDM. They wanted the current system. Most of the applications are outdated. So they came back to BCT. Hey, I want to implement this, but that scope is more than MDM. And BCT said like, yes, as an MDM expert, we know how to fit in this MDM along with your enterprise-wide digital transformation, which includes auto capture, etc., etc. Okay, so we gave them an enterprise architect solution. How do we do this? Okay, and what we did is like we understood their current systems. Okay, and then we told them, boss, this is very big, and we cannot be. I mean, this should not be approached in a big bang manner. Rather, it should be done in a phased manner. And this is where the implementation style of coexistence comes into picture. Let's say there is multiple business lines. Let's say prepaid customer, postpaid customer, fixed line. Let's pick one. Okay, let's pick the prepaid customers from the source system. Now we will migrate this data from the source system into the MDM. And now the overall master data resides in both the legacy system as well as in the MDM system. Okay, so this is where the coexistence comes into picture. Okay. Now, with this, the value that we deliver to the customer is faster onboarding of customers, because this became an operational MDM. Okay, so when a new customer walks into the any store or online, without them presenting him an existing customer, that we were able to identify in real time based on the fuzzy search that, okay, the customer that walks in who has provided the basic details that this customer already exists in the telecom provider. Okay, and let's say if it is in a store, the MDM, operational MDM would return, hey, for the basic details that you provided, name, date of birth, national ID, I could see this is an existing customer with 2 prepaid lines, 1 postpaid line already in our account. Okay, so the store agent would reconfirm with, hey, do you have a prepaid line with us? So and so, and once the customer agrees, yes, that's what it is. And then what happens is the customer doesn't have to re-enter the data. So all the proof of ID, know your customer, or the license, anything that they need to show as a proof, that is already populated for the store agent. Okay, so this way the customer onboarding becomes very fast. Okay, Now, from the end user, the other experience is the omni-channel experience. Okay, and this has been enabled by the presence of MDM, that a customer can start getting a new line from online, but whatever issue he partially completes it and then moves on to a mobile app and then he can complete it. Okay, so the MDM, what it does is like it captures whatever the customer has done, whether he has got the prepaid line or postpaid line, whether it is in active state or whether it is in initialization stage. Everything is managed within the customer MDM, and this operational MDM has enabled the omni-channel experience for user, where the user can move from one sales channel to other sales channel without losing information. Okay, and we have improved the quality of data by eliminating duplicates around 35%. Okay, and another important thing that we delivered for the business is managing the hierarchy. Okay, so you could see for the corporate customers or for the personal customers, the account hierarchy and customer hierarchy is very important. And TIBCO MDM solution gives you an option where you don't have to replicate the data. Okay, so few other competitors, when they want to manage the records in a multiple hierarchies, the only option that they do have is they need to replicate the data. Okay, whereas TIBCO MDM, you don't have to replicate the data. The hierarchy is generated at runtime. Okay, and there is absolutely no limit where you can see how many levels of depth that the hierarchy can go, or how many number of hierarchies that you can create. Okay, and the system is completely integrated with all other systems within the telecom organization and through real-time integration. Okay, so this is all about the second customer that we have implemented. Okay, now from this, what we want to see from our experience, BCT's experience, if someone asks us, hey, I want to start an MDM program, do you have any learnings from your previous experience that you can share it with us? Certainly, yes. Okay, so let's say if you want to successfully implement an MDM program, there are certain critical success factors. Data discovery and profiling is one of the foremost things. As I said earlier, many customers think that, hey, they have a good quality data or they know the amount of issues that they have. But only when you do the data profiling, data discovery exercise, you may unearth more problem which might have hampered your business growth so far. Okay, so this has to be a planned activity. The time invested in the data profiling is worth. Okay, so it has to be planned accordingly. Okay, and then another important thing is like model first. Okay, so this is where TIBCO MDM comes in handy, where this is a model driven application. You get all the application features from UI to the service to the integration based on your model, and you can straight go and model the data model on the TIBCO MDM application UI. Okay, and the accountability. Okay, one of the key things for a successful factor of MDM implementation is you define who's the owner of each data, whether this is customer data, marketing information, employee information, location information, which group within your organization has a say in it. The data governance council has to be formed, and there has to be a clear accountability and ownership defined on each of those data areas. Okay, and then the DQ rules. Okay, as Philip mentioned, the shared data is what forms the basics of the MDM. Okay, so when there is a shared data, you need to have a common definition. Okay, let's say just as a simple example, a gender in customer and gender in employee should not have a different definition. It should mean what is the person's gender. Okay, so it could be as simple as that, and it can be like towards your business line. Okay, so you need to define what are the common definitions for the shared data, and also identify what are the data quality issues and what are the rules that needs to be put in with the help of the data governance team. Okay, and collaboration. Most times we think, hey, let's go ahead and implement MDM. Now we got a great product. Now let's go ahead and do it. That may not be the simple answer. The reason being, it's a collaboration between the business and IT. MDM is not just an IT change, it is also business change. You identify the data quality issues. Now the business has to agree, yes, we are okay to make changes that we would start getting these many corrections in the data from the or the business process change. They should be ready to adopt. Okay. At the same time, you can't dictate them. So there has to be a collaboration between the business and IT to understand the process changes. Okay. And apart from that, you need to give the ownership back to the business. The IT team should not own the data. It has to be the business team who has to own the data for any marketing or any needs. And they should be, if they want to introduce a new product, the business team should have access. Hey, now let me go ahead and create a new product, or let me go ahead and make this necessary changes to an existing product. Okay, and that's where TIBCO MDM comes in handy, where it is a single unified application where the data stewards, the business team, developer, everything access the same unified solution, and the business team can make the changes whatever that they wanted. Okay, and the last lesson that we wanted to share is, it may not be a wise idea to start with big bang. Okay, MDM can run into a multi-year program, but if you want to showcase value, if you want to showcase the return of your investment to the business, start with a pilot program. Okay, you could take whatever be one domain or one subdomain, pick it up, define the rules. You tell them, hey, this is the value that identified in terms of eliminating the data quality issues, eliminating the deduplication. Okay, now what this means for the business, I improve the marketing by so forth. So those are the key KPIs that you can demonstrate to the business team by starting with the pilot program in a short period. Once you set it, then you define the roadmap. Even after that may not be, I mean, you need to plan it like you have a regular release, that you do the MDM in smaller units in an agile manner. Okay.
Come off mute again. It happens every single time. Well done. I think we went to. I think looking at organisations as a whole. Philip brought some of that to life, and then looking at local organisations. I like the example about a man, and I think that was really cool. So we've done that. I think what's key is, if we can't get started, if that's just, the bite of the elephant kind of analogy, you're not going to swallow a whole elephant, I think is certainly an expression that we have in the UK, and I'm not sure if that translates into all the places that we're moving into today. But here's the thing, to eat the elephant, you start with small bites. So what's that fast path? How can we do it? Because if it's just this mammoth project, getting control of our data, we're not going to get there. Before I hand that back over to the speakers and we go on to that fast path for success, a couple of things. I know Philip and Ram as well, there's so many questions coming through. It's good to see such engagement from such a large audience. So we will get to as many of these as possible. I think Philip is answering some of those as we go through. Ram, feel free. And what I'll do is remember that we're going to go to a fireside chat as well. So we'll pick those. And to the speakers, if you've got any questions that are firm favourites, then pick these out. It's good to see so many questions coming through. But right now, what we'll do, we're going to go on to fast path to success. Let's move on. And we probably want to wrap this up in about 5 minutes, if that's okay, guys, and we'll go on to the Q&A.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, now how BCT can help you in getting started in an MDM journey. Okay, like as I said, BCT has vast experience that we have done this successfully for multiple customers. Okay, so now if you have got master data or the shared data across your organization, you are interested in implementing an MDM solution. The best thing that we can do is, like, we can get a call with our marketing team or sales team. Okay. Our MDM experts will help you with doing an assessment and strategy. Meaning we can do it in 3 ways, but our recommended thing is, like, okay, let's start with the strategy and an assessment phase. Okay, where we would come into your landscape. We would understand what is your current IT infrastructure, what is your application doing. Okay, what are your shared data. So we would do a complete assessment of your environment. Okay, and then we would identify what is the current maturity level of your data governance or MDM whatsoever that may be currently present. Okay, and then we would help you define the strategy we would give you the roadmap how you can transform the current system into a fully governed data governance MDM implementation. Okay. And apart from that, if you want to justify to your business team, if you're an IT starting this and you want to justify to your business that, yes, I need this initiative, BCT can help you identify the business use case where business would be benefited by doing this MDM initiative. So we can do that business development justification also, identifying the use case also. Okay, and this can be called as an assessment or strategy planning. Okay, once this assessment strategy planning is there, or in other words, we can also do a pilot implementation. Okay, so after the assessment, you said like, hey, now the assessment is good. My business gave a green light. They are very impressed with the assessment outcome. Now, can you help us doing a small pilot implementation? Definitely yes. Okay, as part of the pilot implementation, we would get to the source systems. We would understand what your source data looks like, go in depth about what is their quality issues. Okay, and then we would list the quality issues. We would work with you together with your business team, identify the priority on the business, what needs to be implemented, and so that we identify the scope. So not everything can be implemented within the pilot. Let's say we are going to implement the pilot for, let's say, 2 months of duration. Okay, so we prioritize what can be accomplished within this time frame so that you can see the maximum return of investment. Okay, and then we define the solution design as part of the implementation, and then we implement the data cleansing rules. We implement the TIBCO MDM solution as a whole, including the infrastructure setup development, and that way you will have a running MDM application at the end of the pilot implementation. Okay, and then you can expand what's next. After the pilot implementation, you can expand it to the full functional MDM implementation, including other data domains on your own, or BCT can very well help you with that with our experience. Okay, once you onboarded as part of the pilot, then the next thing is like identify the next major source. Repeat the cycle. Okay, identify the data quality issues from the source. Identify what should be considered as a master data that needs to be moved into the MDM. Identify the business priority, all those things that we can do. And apart from the development, we can also give you a maintenance and the support infrastructures. Okay, at the end, once one source is completed, we can move on to the next source. So we are successfully doing this for a few other customers where we are implementing MDM into multi-years, where we do one source at a time, and then we define the roadmap for them. Okay, and how you can get contact us. So here are the contacts of our sales heads from both MENA and India region, where you can contact them via email or text or call, and our sales head would be glad to help you get started on this. And that's about it.
Great. So what we're going to do, we're going to lose the slides. It's the bit I think the speakers have they been dreading, or they've been looking forward to this point? This is the thing. It's going to be the question here. Philip's looking very stony faced. So are we going to be able to throw a couple of curve balls? Are we going to be able to find a question that's going to stump Philippe this morning? We've been on a long holiday, so we've actually been on a holiday for 4 days. So it's like the worst ever Monday morning. It's early in Europe. So what we'll do, we'll lose these slides. We'll go off present, please, whoever's looking after these, and we'll go on to the fireside chat. And let's see if we can ask a question that the speakers that's going to challenge the speakers. Keep them coming. Who's presenting at the moment? Can we just lose the screen share? That's it. There we go. Lovely. Like I say, I think what's been really cool is the amount of questions that have come through. We've had them in the Q&A, we've had them in the chat, we're going to answer those. We've been busy, we've been typing some responses, but I've seen certain patterns. So what I'll do is I'll pick out some of the questions that sometimes that maybe answer the majority of the questions, because we've seen these come in groups. I'll ask the first one at Philippe. Ram, you've been speaking for a short while now, so I'll let you have a minor rest, and we'll put this question to Philippe. But I like this one because I think this is probably reflective of a lot of people look, Philippe, I liked your small data, big consequences slide. I'm on a work group, and I'm involved in AI and analytics. We've got another work group, and they're looking at data management. And then compliance, well, they just send us emails telling us what to do. We're in these three groups. What, from that slide, what are you suggesting here?
I suggest about what? Sorry, about the
about the separate work groups. Should we come together? I think you were talking about this being a unified, looking at all of those areas in one. And I think the question really is about, at the moment, the person asking this question is in siloed work groups, and should they come together? What's your advice around that?
Oh yes, of course. They when you put in place this kind of solutions, this is something that is really across the company. So you will have to ask yourself a lot of questions, and a lot of collaboration between teams will also happen. Because, for example, if we take a look at the analytical aspect, it will be really the good occasion to make the analytical teams work with the persons that have the data from the MDM piece. And so, yeah, these initiatives will also help, I would say, the collaboration of your internal teams. I spoke about the business users that were involved in the data management process, but it's going further than that. As you were mentioning, the compliance team will be involved, the analytical team will be involved. They will have to stop working on silos, at least for certain aspects, because of course, every team has his own life, they have their own job to do, but it will be a really good occasion for them to meet, discuss, and share what they need.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think what we're saying here is we talk about data silos, but we could also have work group silos. And this culture, this DNA should go across the organization. Ram, do you have any thoughts on that? Have you worked with organizations that have tried, again, we forget the data silos, but work group silos? Have you seen this in the projects that you've worked in?
Yes, Alan, certainly. So as we said, like some of the customers that we worked in, what we did see is like they have data silos even before we implemented the MDM implementation. Okay, so as part of the assessment, we identified, okay, these are the problems that has been created by the data that are sitting in silos in the source application. And then we told them the significance of having to bring them together in MDM.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. I think, again, what I'm trying to do is answer as many questions that are coming through. And I like this because I'm old enough, I think I'm the oldest person on this call today. I'm old enough to remember before we even had streaming data. That was the thing that we would hear about. We didn't really have streaming data. And very quickly, we've seen that Moore's law. We've seen a proliferation of fast data, of quick data, of streaming data and IoT data. And I think we've seen a couple of questions around that. I'm going to go straight back to Ram. Ram, what are you thinking about IoT data and in a kind of MDM framework? Is that something we can handle? What are your thoughts around that?
Okay, see, IoT data by itself is not considered as a master data, and that should not be directly come into the master data. Okay, but you use other applications provided by TIBCO, such as a data virtualization or streaming services. We have a Streambase, okay, other products within TIBCO where you can capture that information and then you can store it. And the data virtualization, what it can do is like, along with the master data, it can see the transactional data from the streaming services, and then it can build a 360-degree view of anything for the business users to identify, which is important because most times, recently, as you said, people wanted, hey, I just don't need master data. I wanted to see everything about this customer or everything about this product. What are the complaints of this particular products? What of the other things? Okay, so those are transactional in nature. So whether it is IoT or some other kind of transactional systems, the DV on top of MDM can help you visualize the 360-degree view of everything.
Great. Philippe, do you have a view on that when it comes to streaming and IoT? I mean, are you hearing more? Are you seeing more projects with your team around these subjects? Less? Where is your focus?
No, and I completely agree with Ram. We see more and more of these initiatives because we are producing every year more and more data. So we need to be able to manage this data in a certain way. But to come back on Ram's point, where I completely agree, is that you don't apply the same management on the master data and on IoT or stream data, because again, master data are data that are stable, not changing in a high frequency. So when you are speaking with IoT or streaming data, these transactions are using master data. So you will need to combine basically these different things. And so we see, yes, more and more, but we are well, I would say, equipped at TIBCO to address these topics. So again, with the virtualization, with the streamings. So yes, the most common use case is the 360-degree view, again, as Ram was saying, to be able to couple, I would say, transactional data to the master data. But again, keep in mind that you don't store and manage this data in the MDM platform. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. We've had a few references actually to 360, and I know we've I think it was a couple of months ago, and we had a similar session actually with Bob Eve, who's an author, was at Cisco, worked around the DV portfolio, and now works again within Unify Stack at TIBCO, and also Omar from Dubai. And I know we brought that topic to life, so we'll see if we can make that available in time as a recording if you missed that. I think it's very valid, and I think it's interesting how we're going back to that viewpoint about the 360. Philippe, there's quite a lot of questions that come in. I always like to do this. Is there a question you would like to pick from the audience? I mean, so many, we don't see that many questions come in, so we've got an engaged group listening. Is there anything that you would like to pick out as a question to answer?
I'm taking a look at the remaining ones. So let's take the latest one, for example. Quality of data is compromised because lack of collaboration. How much of collaboration's efforts the tool address? So there's for me, if that's okay, we start. There's two aspects here. Lack of collaboration is usually because you are not able to imply your users. It's not because you don't want. It's because nothing is automatically driven. This tool, the tool that we presented today, the idea is that you can really define how the team should collaborate, who should be involved, when they should be involved, and then the tool will drive this collaboration. So basically, the answer of your question is like, how much of collaboration? You define it. If you want multiple teams to be involved, then they will be involved because they will receive notification. They will have some deadlines to achieve the task. They will be spammed if they are not doing what they're supposed to do. You will define escalation processes. So you will really define the collaboration level that you need.
Ram, I'm going to hand that on. I think that's an interesting question and answer. Ram, have you got a viewpoint on that as well?
Yes, Alan. So collaboration between the business and the IT team is more important. Okay, and that's where the TIBCO MDM comes into picture, where you define the rules, you define what each user can access, you control what each user can see in the master data. Typically, you would see, okay, there is a customer domain, there is a product domain, but not all data has been accessed by the business team. Okay, so you define the rules, and between the user groups also, they can create a workflow. Some user creates a product and they wanted to send it to the different user group to enrich the data. And once the data has been enriched, it has to go to the tax team or some other legal team to verify the data. So this is where the collaboration comes into picture. You don't want to go sequentially, but the data governance workflow has to work in parallel. Okay, and this is one good question that you asked, because when I work with some other analysis that the competitors have lagged in this data governance skills. Okay, where TIBCO MDM, this data governance workflow, you can collaborate with multiple parties at the same time in parallel. So this is one of the key features of TIBCO EBX.
Yeah, excellent. So I think what's always nice, we're kind of 6 minutes to the hour, but I think in this age where we jump between Zoom meetings, it's nice to have a time to have a cup of tea or maybe a comfort break. So what we're going to do is I know the questions coming in. What we will do, we're going to scrape these questions and we'll get back to you individually. I think some of Ram's team, if we could ask some of you guys to answer directly, because there's some really key questions coming in, and I think that would be great. I think at this point, what I'd like to say is, you're seeing Ram's face, you're seeing Philippe's face. We'd really like their face and mine. We'd really like to say thanks to the speakers. You really brought this subject to life. Behind the scenes, there's always a production team. So I'd like to say thanks to Coles, to Kavitha, and Sangeeta as well. Sangeeta and I have been working on bringing this topic to life, making sure we're reflective of the needs in the organisation. But I think the key is the star of the show is always one person, and that's the people that turn up today. So we thank you very much for your time. And we trust that whatever you do today, you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Helen. Bye, everyone.